I mean, so a lot we're talking about college football programs. We need a little.
It was huge.
We need a little shot in the arm.
So I'm still going. Like you kind of cut yourself off. Do you want to reset it?
Yeah. So Michael Severe yesterday came on here talking nonsense. No, he made the assertion that guys should win faster in the current era of college football, and so you didn't really think that was true. I didn't really think that was true, but I wanted data. So,
dude, I do understand.
I understand the perception.
I didn't love it because what happened after Indiana was it was used as an indictment against Nebraska. And I'm like, look, I just want to tell you guys something. I'm going to say this and I'm going to move on. I think what's happening in Indiana with an experienced staff when you bring in winners is a quicker process when you don't have the expectations.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think there's something to that. And I think I can say that without making excuses because Coach Rhule on the sneak, like he typically does, slid it in where he said, "Hey, many have tried before me. I'm going to try it a different way."
Yep.
And he just kept on moving.
Yeah.
Right. I know what he's saying because we've heard hey, we got to get rid of the termites and the ground up, and it takes time, and it's a slow burn. Although the first guy that tried it, Coach Callahan, felt like it was in a little bit better shape than we gave it credit for. He said he just had to go out and find some fellas, right? Which he did.
Yep.
But I mean, there's the whole relationship. I'm not even revisiting that.
Yeah.
But so folks have tried it a different way, and I mean, if I'm being honest, I would love to see something that is sustainable. So I'm willing to be patient in the meantime, which is why I always say, even with Frost, even with Riley, while you're waiting to get good players, what are you doing in the meantime?
Get the culture right
to give yourself a chance to win.
Because it doesn't matter how many good players you get. If you don't have everything else figured out by the time you get good players in terms of culture, how you want to program, all those other things, guess what?
Do you know why else I think he used Ohio State as the stand his ground?
Why is that?
With philosophy, because he knows it will come to light this week. I mean, because you've left yourself no real wiggle room with a litmus test,
which he's done before.
I always joke, yeah,
he'll back himself into a corner.
He's basically saying, okay,
judge me today, judge me on this week.
I'm going to put this to the test.
Yeah,
he's saying that out loud.
He did that last year with.
And if his team cares,
yeah.
No, I won't say if they care because I think they care. But they got to you got to get your coaches back.
Yeah, you got to find a way to have his back.
He stood on business last week. You got to find a way to get his back this week.
So I went through every Power 5 coaching hire from 2016 to 2021. I didn't go any further than that because I needed more data to kind of illustrate and look at the point that I was investigating. There were 63 Power Conference hires in that time frame. Only 19 of them were coming off of multiple missed bowls.
Yeah.
19 of 63. That's less than a third. We pointed to a couple programs that we thought were comparable. One we both agreed on was North Carolina in terms of where Nebraska's at. North Carolina might be the closest in terms of what type of program we think they can be, but they obviously had more success recently than Nebraska had. Sam Pittman at Arkansas, I think, is an interesting one too. I think Arkansas has a tougher job than Nebraska is, but he came off of 3 straight missed bowls, had a rough year 1, made bowl game in year 2 with 9 wins, but has regressed since then. An interesting one is Florida State when they hired Norvell.
So could I say something? Because I studied this for a while.
Yeah.
The fundamental difference is, even though I'm going to let you get into what I'm going to guess you're going to talk about the parallels, the similarities. Okay. The one be careful moment for me is how readily available the talent is.
100%.
Okay.
And that's a caveat I was going to make.
Okay. So outside of that, do your thing.
Because Florida State was a program that was coming off a few years of struggling. Obviously, the Willie Taggart era was bad. The end of Jimbo Fisher was bad. Still not the extent of struggling that Nebraska's been through. But Mike Norvell.
And he was a slower burn, too.
Mike Norvell took some time.
Yeah.
3 wins in year 1, 5 wins in year 2. Then he jumps to the 10 and 13. But guess what? They're 1-7 this year.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a really tough one. I think in terms of.
But do you know? I hate to keep doing this. I apologize.
No, go ahead. This is the point, to have the conversation.
So there's 2 things.
Yeah.
You got to get the quarterback right.
Yeah, which they did not.
And while you're slow burning, the core of your groceries still have to be
high school recruits.
Yep.
And that's the thing that Norvell
because high school recruits are your protein.
Mm-hmm. They're the staple. They have to be the
staple. They're like, I guess if you're a starch guy, like that's the meat and potatoes part.
Mm-hmm.
The portal is the veggies and the dessert and the salad.
They're the garnishes. They're making it pretty.
Unless you can do what in the portal? And that's get the quarterback right.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing, and I was hoping you would maybe get into Michigan, but that's a little bit different animal. See, they rolled the dice on transfer quarterbacks year over year over year. Now they're forced to do what? Produce their own.
And it's a mess.
In-house.
Yeah.
And it is a debacle.
And the one time they actually.
That's why I didn't love the Washington reference. I get the data points.
Yes.
But see, they got the quarterback right.
I also, because he didn't stay.
And Nebraska's trying to get it right with a
with an incoming quarterback.
They tried it the other way.
Yeah, and the issue with Washington is DeBoer didn't stay, so we don't have any data points.
I'm with you. I did like that point.
Eli Drinkwitz is an interesting one at Missouri too.
Yeah, they may be in trouble though.
They were they had missed 3 out of 5 bowl games. 5 wins, 6 wins, then 5 wins, 6 wins, 6 wins. So 3 years of mediocre results before jumping to 11 wins, and now they're 6-2. Schiano is another one. They'd missed 5 straight bowl games, and that's been a real slow burn for him. They got to 7 wins last year, but there's no guarantees for them this year either. One that I thought was actually really interesting and maybe a really close parallel. Do you have a guess?
I'm remembering the layout on the sheet. So it has to be post 2020.
It's a 2020 hire.
If I give this,
I'll give you a hint too.
Go ahead.
He got hired somewhere else this past coaching cycle.
And who am I missing?
I think this one's a weirdly good parallel for Nebraska.
This is going to piss me off.
You're going to know it as soon as I say it. Although you might not agree that it's a good parallel.
Give it to me.
Jed Fish.
I thought, whoa.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, under Kevin Sumlin, they'd missed 3 straight bowl games. He was a slow burn guy. 1 win year 1, 5 wins year 2.
Finally got the quarterback right.
Then gets to 10-3. But then he leaves and takes the Washington job, so we don't even know if he would have sustained that. That's where it makes some of these really hard, is you have guys that leave for better jobs. But I think the program, I
don't know what Arizona should be.
I don't either. But it's a major program in a...
Is it?
I mean, major in terms of big conference.
Okay.
It's like it's a major public university.
You know, the one thing that's interesting in these is like the temperament of the fan base. Like how close how close are the expectation levels and the perception from the fan base? Because a lot of times
I do have
that's what gives you time or doesn't give you time.
100%. I do have one that I think there's a fan base with similar expectations. Also in that 2020 class, Josh Heupel at Tennessee.
Yeah, you don't even know I'm going to be asking you. You don't have any idea I'm giving you this feedback.
No, we had no conversations about this. I just sent you the list. We knew we were going to talk about this in general.
I thought you may give me A&M.
So A&M's a good one, but
that's who I thought. Like if I was like, because I'm thinking about this.
Yeah.
I'm like, well,
here's why
we have to get into the variance between fan expectation level
and actual success. So here's the problem with A&M.
That's what I would chart that as patience.
Yes.
Patience to grow.
Here's the problem with A&M is they've been too much more successful than Nebraska.
They've been too good, yeah.
That I didn't feel like I could use them as a parallel.
I understand.
Even under Jimbo.
Tennessee's actually, I'm going to say this out loud. Tennesssee's actually a better one. You're right.
Like, even under Jimbo, where they end up firing him, he was 9-1 in the COVID year, right? Like, they were preseason top 6 or something after that. So, like, they've been too good, I thought, to use them as a direct parallel. But Tennessee, before they had hired Heupel, missed 3 of the last 4 bowl games. They'd had a really rough stretch in like the Derek Mason, Jeremy Pruitt era right before they hired Josh Heupel. 7 wins in year 1, 11 wins in year 2, 9 wins last year, and now 6-1. So if you want a guy that won pretty quick and then has so far sustained it, Josh Heupel is your best example.
Yeah.
And even him, only 7 wins in his first year, and he had the quarterback right immediately with Hendon Hooker. Like, that's the thing that he got that is a major difference between Nebraska and Tennessee, is he had a ready-to-go, basically Heisman caliber quarterback immediately, where Nebraska's doing it with a freshman. Because you're right, a lot of these other guys, I mentioned Kansas as being a close parallel. You know what's also a really close parallel, sadly, is Clark Lee at Vanderbilt when he got hired in terms of success.
Who they almost ran out of there.
Yeah, but he has built up.
Made the monumental staff changes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
he gutted that thing.
He did. He gutted that staff going into this year.
And if they can get another win, they'll get bowl eligible in year 4. Mike Elko's won, but again, he was only there for 2 years and then he bounced. So we have no idea what to do with that one. Here's one that I think people point to a lot as an instant success guy, but then they forget what happens after, is Sonny Dykes at TCU, right?
Yeah, he got hired because of it.
Comes in immediately. They had missed 3 straight bowl games at the end of the Gary Patterson era. And then he goes and wins 13 games, makes a national championship game first year. But guess what? They missed a bowl last year. Mm-hmm. And they're currently 5-3. No guarantees they're going to be any good this year either.
Yeah.
Right? So when you're looking at this instant success, what do I always say when people get mad at the coaches or whatever? What's the step after being mad? Yeah. What's the step after the 1-year success? Ironically, one of the guys that maybe is having the most success early that came from a tough spot is a Rhule guy, Joey McGuire at Texas Tech. They had missed 4 out of 5 bowl games before he got hired. He goes 8 wins year 1, 7 wins year 2, and they're currently 5-3. Ironically enough.
You know how bad I missed them last year? I'm still mad.
Texas Tech?
Yeah, I'm like, that's my dark horse.
Yeah. And they were probably closer to 10 wins than they were to 7.
Yeah.
They just barely missed on a couple of those, but like there's not a lot of, first of all, there's just not a lot of parallels to Nebraska in terms of the expectations of the fan base.
No, I get it, Mike. Sorry.
No, go for it.
This YouTube comments are like, it's buzzing. But Mike was like, he said, yeah, except for Rhule and company swung and missed on a quarterback in year 1. That's on him. No bleep. Like, it's not I'm not. So, yes, but part of the reason it's you have to get the quarterback position right. There's no question. Mm-hmm. But let's say Mike, let's say he hit on a quarterback.
Yeah.
And you get off to the good start year 1. You get Sims for another year. Mm-hmm. Okay. You still at some point have to get the long-term quarterback right. Because what we've seen,
otherwise you're just swinging at transfers every year. That's a really tough way to live.
Ask Florida State.
It's a really, because they hit on Jordan Travis.
Yeah, that
love that transfer.
Ask Michigan.
DJU don't like that so much.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I get it. He's 100% right. That is on Rhule. So outside of whatever happens with how we feel about the staff, that's going to be the number one thing when people critique the build. They're still in utter disbelief that Sims was the hand-picked guy. So that's what they'll always. So I get it.
I do too. But
I know exactly what Mike
here's
is
the
saying.
question I'd like to ask about that, though.
Well, he's here. You can ask him.
I'll ask you and I'll ask him.
Okay.
What was the alternative in that situation?
I listen, man.
Because there wasn't a quarterback in the room that any of us wanted anything to do with.
Understand.
Right?
I even heard, and I can't believe it. I heard 3 weeks ago, last week. You folks know who you are. Oh man, Kyle McCord was out there. Look at what's. I'm like, hey, listen.
I like Kyle McCord. I think he's a good quarterback. But you're not trading Kyle McCord for Dylan Raiola.
Not in the long haul.
No.
I'm not.
No, like, ideally, in the perfect...
And it's not just because he's coming on the heels of throwing it to Pitt 3 times for touchdowns. It's just...
And 5 picks in that game.
They had that opportunity. They did. And so maybe that's the one where you're like up in arms. But I'm telling you, that weekend, that whole Saturday, Sunday, Monday was not like people think.
No.
It just wasn't. Number one, Coach Rhule wasn't available. Nor were a couple of other guys on that staff. And the Dylan... I can say this. The Raiola news broke quickly. Quickly. Like, even I didn't. I was probably the first to know because Dom texts me.
Yeah.
And I'm at the banquet.
It went from this rumor of, like, he may not be happy at Georgia to he's coming to Nebraska and broke publicly incredibly quick.
And it overlapped with McCord being in Lincoln. So I understand why McCord didn't feel the love because...
Yeah, this weird thing happened.
Yeah.
Can you correct me if I'm wrong, though? They would have taken both?
I can't 100% say that.
Okay. Because I mean, listen, I talk to people sometimes.
I would be speculating.
I'll just tell the rumors that I heard, and I have no idea their validity, but, like, I hear things from people sometimes, and, like, a decent amount of time it's true.
And Coach Rhule is pretty sick.
I was told that if McCord, had wanted to come still, they would have taken him.
Yeah, I don't
know that for sure. I don't. That's just, again, as a rumor that I heard that I would believe because I don't think, for the most part, you don't want to have to start a freshman quarterback.
No, I know.
Right?
I know.
So whether it was McCord or somebody else, I think they would have been open to having a short-term transfer guy to kind of bridge the gap there a little bit.
Hey, Shane, can you put thank you. I can't read Mike's response. Got to make it bigger, Shane.
Now, if you're wanting,
hang on. I'm all for the slow burn.
Yeah.
There were other guys out there in the portal. Sims didn't hit, and dominoes had to fall into play. But you can't apologize for that, though.
Also, the players have to want to come to Nebraska too.
Yeah, like you can't.
And I get that the thing that we get hung up on with Sims is they're like, oh, he's a Sunday talent. You know who else said he was a Sunday talent? His new coach, Kenny Dillingham.
Oh, I know.
This isn't an exclusively Nebraska thing, right? Everybody looks at Jeff Sims and sees Sunday talent. Every coach looks at Jeff Sims and sees Sunday talent. So it's not just a Nebraska thing. And every coach thinks they can fix him because they see Sunday talent.
Everybody.
Yeah.
But I don't know this.
So I want to speak to Mike's point.
Yeah, go ahead.
For whatever the reason, I'm kind of vibing with him, even though it's just weird. Because I don't agree.
Yeah.
But I think he's right.
Okay.
In some instances.
Sure.
This is one of those weird DB dynamics.
Absolutely.
So he's told no lies. Okay. And this second part, it's hey, and he didn't hit, and the dominoes had to fall in place to get Dylan. Understand?
Sure.
Right. We know why there was interest from Dylan and Nebraska.
Yeah.
Family dynamics, the whole deal. Okay, we're going to get to Asian White and Jack here too because I want to get him in this segment. But you can't. Number one, you can't apologize for that. And number two. Imagine this, Mike. You get the high school piece right with your quarterback development. And while you may not always get a high 4, 5-star caliber quarterback, the pieces will come around that so you can build around something sustainable. In case you don't get the home run higher deal quarterback, you can get a guy that can come into and develop at his pace. Because the other pieces are sustainable. You're not just getting rental guys because they want to come play with a high caliber quarterback. So that adds to the longevity potential in terms of putting it together.
Wyatt and Jack, stay on the line here. We'll try and get you at the top of the next segment. That's DB. I'm Ravi Rhule, Hurrdat Sports Radio, coming up next.